Hey guys, so today I'm recording a video on the do's and don'ts of giving a good toast at a wedding. This was a requested video, so I hope that you guys find it useful. I will say that I have heard quite a few speeches and toasts over my time as a wedding planner, and I have heard some amazing toasts, and I can remember the clients' names and who gave the toast, and I can remember sitting there at the reception thinking, my gosh, this is an amazing toast. Like, I can't even believe that I'm listening to this right now. Along those lines though, unfortunately, I have also heard some pretty unsuccessful toasts. I never like saying that, of course, because I know that the person that is actually speaking, of course, put some thought and time into it. But if you're going to give a toast, there are definitely some do's and don'ts that I have picked up over time, just based on my experiences and what I've heard. That I think can ultimately lead you to giving a successful toast at a wedding, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. The first is a do. Do keep your toast to 2 or 3 minutes maximum. I know this doesn't really sound like a whole lot of time, but trust me, you can pack a lot into 2 or 3 minutes. After 2 or 3 minutes, you start to lose your guests' interest and attention. Usually toasts are scheduled either before the meal service begins or kind of intermixed during courses, so the longer you keep your guests away from their food, the more antsy they're going to get. Also keep in mind that the longer toasts go on, it takes longer to get to the fun part of the reception, which is dancing and partying the night away. So just keep that in mind as well. You can pack a lot of information into 2 or 3 minutes while still keeping it simple and to the point and very memorable at the same time. Going along with that is another do. If you do have a more elaborate speech plan that you really want to incorporate and present to the bride and groom in one way or another, ask if you can give it during the rehearsal dinner. The rehearsal dinner the night before is a really great opportunity for people who are not typically asked to give speeches during the wedding reception to go ahead and say a few words. It's also usually a little bit more laid back and informal as well, so go ahead and just ask the bride and groom, say, you know what, I have a little bit more of an elaborate speech plan. Most likely their interest is going to be piqued and they will say yes. So the rehearsal dinner is a really great opportunity for you to give a much longer speech or toast if you wanted to go that route, and then maybe do an abbreviated version on the wedding day during the wedding reception. The next is a don't. Try to avoid using generic love poems and love quotes in your speech. They tend to be really overdone. There are quite a few that I've heard over and over, and your guests have likely heard them time and time again as well. They just have started to lose their meaning and have started to lose their impact. It's better when you just speak from the heart and use your own words when giving a toast. Going along that same line, don't ask your groom to put his hand on top of the bride's and say that this is the last time. He will have the upper hand in the relationship. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this during weddings, and I kind of look around the room and I see a lot of people kind of like, not cringing, but they kind of roll their eyes and they're like, oh yeah, that's been done before. It's just one of those things, again, that has kind of lost its impact and its shock value. I think a lot of people kind of expect that to happen nowadays, so it's better to kind of think of something that's new and exciting, and like I said before, use your own words. Try to think of something that's actually new and different if you wanted to go at that kind of like joke, humorous angle, just because that, like I said, has been used so many times over and over again. Try to avoid that one as well. The next is a do. Do be yourself on the wedding day when you're giving your toast. I cannot stress this enough. I've heard a lot of people give toasts where they start to sound more like a textbook than they do an actual person. And the reason the bride and groom asked you to give a toast was because they wanted to hear from you, not some stranger they don't know. So do use conversational language that you would normally use when you were talking in everyday life, and just make sure you don't lose your personality when you're thinking about your toast. Don't use too many stories when giving a toast on the wedding day. This is where people get into trouble with length. I've heard a lot of people just start going into way too many stories and inside jokes that aren't necessarily really relatable to everyone in the room. It tends to happen a lot more with bridesmaids, I have to say. Bridesmaids will start getting into things like, oh, I will always remember like Margarita Mondays and going shoe shopping sprees on Saturdays and this and that and frozen yogurt trips, and they just start naming off a laundry list of things that they used to do with the bride. And those things really don't have any relation to the wedding day. They don't really have anything to say about the bride other than you guys used to really do fun things together. So try to keep focused with your stories. Pick 1 or 2 incidents where you really got to know the bride as a person, where you really just saw the kind of person that she was and you realized why you liked her and why you wanted to be her friend so much. This way you have one cohesive message with your toast, you don't get off track, and more people will be able to relate to you. Going along with that, do talk about the bride and groom and what made you want to be a part of their lives. Flattery can always get you everywhere while giving a toast at a wedding. So when you're stuck on ideas, just think about, why am I this person's friend? what do I like about them, why do I enjoy being a part of their lives, and that is always a really good way to go. If you know that the bride and groom have requested that a few people give toasts at the reception, do kind of touch base with those other people if you're able to, even if it's just via email, and just kind of figure out if you guys are going to be talking about the same things. For example, I have a lot of grooms that are in fraternities or have like a really, really close-knit group of friends, and then they all start talking about the same stories. And if you have like 3 or 4 people that are going to be giving toasts and they're talking about the same thing, guests start to get really, really bored and antsy, and you've started to lose their attention already. So make sure that you're not going to repeat stories and that you guys are all going to be talking about different things so that you can keep the guests focused and keep their attention. If you are a person that tends to get overly sentimental and emotional, sometimes I can. I am known to cry during wedding ceremonies and toast at receptions, I'm not going to lie, but do try to anticipate that during your toast. If you do tend to cry very easily, maybe it's better for you to write down your thoughts in a letter to present to the bride or groom at some point during the wedding day, maybe before you have all started to get ready and put your makeup on and everything so no one's makeup is going to get ruined. And then try to keep the speech during the reception a little bit more lighthearted and fun. I've had just a lot of bridesmaids who have started to give toasts and you cannot understand a word they say because they are crying so much. And that's also upsetting because you want to hear what that person has to say, especially if it's that touching and emotional and lovely, but you really can't understand a word that they're saying. So if you are an emotional person, try to anticipate that and then figure out the best route for you to take. So that pretty much wraps up my do's and don'ts on how to give a good wedding toast. I will say in conclusion that the best wedding toasts are short and sweet, they get to the point, they throw in a few humorous stories, they touch on some sentimental things, they flatter the bride and groom, and then they end on a high note, and those kinds of toasts are always successful. I will say that I'm a little bit biased, of course, but one of my top favorite wedding toasts of all time has been my sister and my brother-in-law at our own wedding. And I mean, obviously I would pick them because, you know, it was our own wedding and they said some beautiful things about me and Josh, but my sister's toast was probably not more than 3 minutes. She opened with an inside joke that our small intimate group could kind of all relate to, and they all laughed. She touched on how it was just me, my sister, and my mom growing up, and how my sister and I bonded over poking jokes at my mom, and everyone in the room knew my mom, so we all kind of laughed about that. She talked about how emotional sometimes it was just to grow up just the 3 of us, and how it was emotional for her and my mom to kind of have to give me away on the wedding day. She made a few more jokes about how we would fight as kids, and then she ended up on a high note, which is throwing out some compliments about our relationship. And it was great. I cried. I couldn't have been more proud of her for just giving the perfect wedding toast. And along the same lines, Josh's brother probably spoke for the same amount of time. And he is not one to be a public speaker, and his toast, it was so touching, I think, for our whole family to hear. And he just talked about how happy Josh was, how he could see how happy Josh was. Just being with me made him a happier person, and that was really all he needed to say, because Josh and I both just started crying after that. And I mean, just one sentence like that can really make or break your toast. So just keep those things in mind. You don't have to get super creative. Just think about why you love the bride and groom and speak from the heart, be yourself, and your toast will be successful. I hope that you guys found this useful, and I will see you back here shortly. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.